engineering after this pandemic is over, and we have three distinguished speakers. Bożena Pasik-Duncan. She received her master's degree in mathematics and computer science from the University of Warsaw in 1970, PhD and BSc from the Warsaw School of Economics. Before moving to Kansas University, she was a faculty member of the Department of Mathematics at the Warsaw School of Economics. And at the University Kansas, she's a professor of mathematics, a Curtis Professor of both electrical engineering and computer science, and aerospace engineering, and information and telecommunications center, a Chancellor's Club teaching professor, and a member of the KU Women's Hall of Fame. She's a Life Fellow of IEEE, a Fellow of the International Federation of Automatic Control, a recipient of the IEEE Third Millennium Award and IEEE Control System Society Distinguished Member Award. She has served in many capacities in several societies, including IEEE CSS Vice President, IEEE CSS Board of Governors members, and Program Director of Society for Industrial and Applied Mathematics. Her recent service includes Deputy Chair of IEEE CSSTC on Control Education, Chair of the American Automatic Control Council Education, and a member of the IFAC-TB as the Educational Liaison and Chair of IFAC Task Force on Diversity and Inclusion. She's an associate editor of several journals and author and co-author over 200 technical papers and book chapters. Her research interests are primarily in stochastic systems and stochastic adaptive control, probability statistics, and STEM education. And she, as I mentioned, she's a recipient of many awards, including the Polish Ministry of Higher Education and Science Award and IEEE Educational Activities Board Meritorious Achievement Award in Continuing Education. Our second speaker is Farid Khan, and he is the current chair of IEEE Smart Village, South Asia Operations. He's an entrepreneur, keynote speaker, former head of business at Hitachi Software Europe, a senior cybersecurity consultant, a published writer, and a humanitarian worker. He's an electrical engineer with a master's in IT law from the University of London and a master's in development practice from the Regis University, Denver, Colorado. He is frequently cited and published in Computing, Information Age, and other technical publications. In 2015, Farid successfully launched IEEE Power and Energy Society signature program, IEEE Smart Village in India. He holds a non-exec position on the Global Steering Committee and also has a place in the IEEE Humanitarian Activities Committee. In 2016, National Geographic shot a documentary on Smart Village India, which premiered in the summer of 2017. And he's also, he's a board member and advisor to commercial and global humanitarian organizations. And our last speaker is Professor S.K. Ramesh. He's a renowned engineering educator with over 3 decades of leadership experience as a dean, department chair, and faculty member in the California state system. The programs he established serve industry practitioners in high-wave, high-demand fields, including renewable energy, assistive technology, and advanced manufacturer. As 2016-17 Vice President of Educational Activities, he championed collaboration, diversity, and inclusive excellence through innovative programs like IEEE Learning Network. Ramesh is an IEEE Fellow recognized for contributions to entrepreneurship in engineering education and founding director of CSU Northridge's internationally recognized AIMS2 program that mentors and supports Latina students and underrepresented minorities in engineering. His many recognitions include the John Guerrera Engineering Educator of the Year, William Johnson International Award for Leadership and Contributions to the Profession, and IEEE Region 6 Community Service Award. Ramesh has over 38 years of experience as an IEEE member and volunteer, and served on the boards of IEEE and ABET, leading volunteers and staff with shared strategic goals, measurable outcomes, and transparent fiscal leaderships. Dr. Ramesh is a candidate for the position of 2021 IEEE President-elect, along with Dr. Ray Liu from University of Maryland and Dr. Saifur Rahman of Virginia Tech University. All IEEE members should have received an email message from the IEEE elections with the BIOS statements and video messages from all three candidates. We encourage you to review the materials and be sure to participate in the elections. You can vote online by logging in with your IEEE account beginning August 17th. So I would like to introduce our chair of Professor Fatih Urda to welcome our speakers. Professor Urda. Okay.
Unmuted. Thanks, Tuncer. Again, my name is Fatih Urda. I'm IEEE Turkey Section Chair. It's really a privilege to host our three esteemed guests, two of them from the US and one from the UK, Professor Ramesh, Professor Pasik Duncan from the US, and Mr. Khan from the UK. I would like to thank Tuncer for moderating this webinar, and I also would like to thank Simay for organizing it. I also, last but not least, I would like to thank our audience for being here. And I would like to let them know that IEEE Turkey is stronger than ever. We are a community of about 2,000 people, and we have about 20 of the IEEE societies here out of 40. Although we're quite a few people and quite a few chapters, societies, we're always looking for active members. If you have any ideas, please contact any of us. So before we hand the floor over to our speakers, I would like to hand it over to Simay. Maybe she wants to say a few things.
Thank you very much, Professor, and I would like to thank all the audience and everyone for being here, and especially I would like to thank our valuable guests who are with us today, and we are so excited to hear your knowledge and your stories, and we're waiting you to inspire us, our members, and I'm seeing quite a lot of IEEE Turkey section members, and recognizing by some names that we also have other friends and colleagues all around the world. So which is an honor for us having you all here. Well, we continue with several initiatives this year. So we're, as our chair said, that we are stronger than ever. We're just like actively organizing these webinars, even these days are days that we continue our virtual activities with all our chapters, affinity groups, and the section board itself. Well, we hope will be helpful and beneficial with all these events and activities to all our members, and collaborate and cooperate with all other organizational units in IEEE. Thank you once again, and I would like to thank Professor Tuncer Baykash for chairing this session, moderating this session, and hosting our valuable guests. And I would like to hand over and give you the space.
Thank you very much. So our format is our speakers will have 15 minutes to provide their insight about engineering the future of the post-COVID world. And afterwards, we are going to receive the questions from the audience. You can write your questions in the chat box. I will take notes, and then after the speeches were over, I will start asking to the people. You can ask either directly to a person or to all, and then we are going to have a panel afterwards. So I would like to start with Professor Bożena Pasik Duncan. So floor is yours.
Hello, thank you very much to everyone and to organizers, and thank you for having me here. I always wanted to be in person in Istanbul, but I also would like to welcome audience. And my first impression immediately is that you are unknown to me. And this makes my presentation more challenging, because you observe, you've heard, my research is stochastic adaptive control. So I work in systems that have some noise, We have a lot of noise these days around us. And I work with systems that are in one or another way unknown. And you are now unknown to me. And this makes me, in real life, if I would be in the classroom, I would immediately learn from about you, because you are the most important. I would speak differently if I would have known who is in the audience, and I would address my presentation just for you, taking into account your background. And I would adapt. This is what is. And then I would come up with adaptive, optimal strategy. And this is what happened. As you've heard, I am professor of mathematics, educated fully in Poland, and moved to the United States. I married American. I have a daughter who is 35, and she is on the way to professor of neurology, being electrical engineer and neuroscience. So I am surrounded in family. I already have community. My husband is engineer and electrical engineer. My daughter is broadly educated, and I am mathematician, but by doing control theory, I am obviously member of engineering community. And I love applications, and probability is in my blood. I say that because I am more than probably average person sensitive to what will happen, to prediction, to estimations. And one of my degrees, mathematical statistics. And this is what I deal now when I follow, because look, you've observed that I am professor of University of Kansas, middle of, in fact, called heart of the United States. But I am in California, in Los Angeles, the worst, the most dangerous place in California, and the hottest COVID-19 spot. And Kansas was doing pretty okay, but I came here for spring break to visit my daughter and to stay here for a few days. And then I was stuck. And 5 months passed since March 10th. It will be soon anniversary, and I still cannot go home. Of course, I could fly, but I know probability. I know how risky it is to take the flight, particularly from Los Angeles, when the average death rate daily is of 60, and spread and cases are astronomical, exponentially. So I know probability, so I know with assistance also of doctors, I said, and I am also in that high risk group, age group. So I know that I cannot fly. So then driving, but then you consider 22 hours driving. So you consider scenario, you have to take 2 nights somewhere and so on, so much uncertainty. But uncertainty is my passion. Uncertainty is my lifetime research. And I just love doing that and examining and being excited. So it's, on the way how I can be scared, but at the same time, I am passionate, I am excited. And when I had to teach online from California, having that little tiny and very old Mac that can crash at any time, having Wi-Fi that sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't work. Under those kind of difficult circumstances, I was supposed to teach online, and I've never taught online. And I'm particularly good in interaction with students. I am great to walk, to engage everyone in class. And then suddenly you're online and challenge how you can do that, how you can carry on those skills that your strength, how you can carry in online. And students, of course, students are, as I always say in every video, students of University of Kansas made me happy in this country. So I can never achieve anything without my students and without students' engagement. So all of them are engaged, and all of them were engaged, and all of them with feedback. They helped me to do reasonable work or good work in their judgment. They are always respectful and kind. But also they said at the end of the semester, they said that they prefer in person. All of them said, 50 students, all of them said they prefer in person. But again, you use what is your strength, and there is nothing better. I teach all engineering students, all across all departments. I teach probability and statistics, and how perfect what happened, that COVID-19, what happened was perfect scenario for teaching statistics. What can motivate students better than real life problems? And they were engaged, each of them in project, instead of any kind of exam. They were engaged in projects. And if I would share their projects, their findings, and they know that I was in California, so they follow California. They know that I am from Poland, they follow Poland. So can you see that global teaching came beautifully naturally? The students were engaged globally, not just Kansas. But Kansas particularly was, because Kansas is like rural place, a lot of empty space. You have some plants and some farms and university town like Lawrence, Kansas. And so each of them had to pick up different
Did Bojana freeze?
Yes, at the moment. We are waiting for her to come back. Simay, did we lose her, or we cannot hear you? She was mentioning that her Wi-Fi is not really good, so.
That's true. Actually, Bojana is still here, but the video is off. We're just still waiting.
Okay. I think she dropped, so.
She just dropped, yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's the concern of the US Wi-Fi, so.
It happens.
Yeah, it happens. So what we can do is that I would like to ask Farid Khan how his internet is actually.
I'm in the UK and things work perfectly out here.
Okay, well, we can continue with your presentation.
Bojana is back.
Is back? Okay, wonderful.
Yes,
wonderful.
I'm asking Bojana. We cannot hear you. You're muted. I asked.
Can you see? This is what students call the generator of rare events.
Yeah.
It's not generator, but this is real life. Wi-Fi was disconnected. You know, I am close to building where people use heavily at this time, and so on. I don't know what you've heard, but I would like to sort of summarize that I had that beautiful lesson full of challenges, full of opportunities. I will be teaching the same course, probability and statistics, this time. And this semester also I chose online because I want to improve, I want to adapt, I want to do better than I did last time. And what I want to say why I didn't choose, although I had option hybrid online for this coming semester, why I didn't choose, because again, as probabilists, I have to consider what is the probability that all students will have masks in the class. What if one of them won't wear mask? What I do, university authorities say report, but I've never reported on student in my life, never. Under any circumstances. So how can I go and report that student didn't wear mask? But this is a risk for me, you know, so then distancing. We are in the small building where elevator is for 4 people, stairways are very narrow and so on. So I think about that. So the future for engineers is great, as I say, unbelievable opportunity for young people. Because you have to learn lesson and do better, because who knows, we can be in the same situation next, so we cannot be shocked, surprised, and out of control. We have to control, we have to know. So this is why there are great opportunities for engineers with the space, with distancing, with all this, with design of the system that satisfies those conditions that are working. So I can see unbelievable opportunity, and I would spend another many hours of sharing what I would propose to design and to consider and so on, and also in teaching and interactive on online, but my time is limited. I believe that I am out of time.
No, you have 2 more minutes according to mine.
2 more minutes, but okay, I hope that you will ask questions. But I wanted to say this as educator. Because essentially last semester I taught like from nowhere. Like I remember my teachers in Poland of history, they taught without any books, any textbooks. It was just that area, that time after the war and so on. So they never. So I had similar situation in my office in Kansas. I have beautiful collection of books on probability, on statistics, and even Russian, Polish, French, all kinds of that I can carry immediately, jump, take example, and beautiful illustrative. Here I was, no any kind of help. Of course, you could find online, but I challenge myself, just do by yourself, create for that particular system, for that particular audience. So the future is great, develop, but don't lose interaction. Because for me, the biggest success of my teaching, and you've seen, I've been rewarded, they call the most rewarded person on campus and so on. But why? Because of interaction. Because of interaction, I am really powerful with interaction. And you know, to finish, I wanted also to say, as a former past chair of women in engineering, I am so pleased to say that I am so beautifully interacting with globally with India, now currently with South Asia countries in projects like WePower and so on. So that interaction, that personal first setting made that difference. So we have to develop that kind of skills, that we want to lose that feeling of personal interaction, because lectures are great online, but I really focus. So this, my goal for next one is just challenge yourself and make students feel that you are with them. You are with them, you care about every single student, and only by working together, we can make change and we can make a difference. That's it. So I hope I will have some questions.
Thank you very much. The questions are coming. Yeah, I'm going to get them after all the presentations. Our second speaker is Farid Khan, as I mentioned, the current chair of IEEE Smart Village. So, Mr. Khan, the floor is yours. You are muted, so I would like to ask Simay maybe.
Oh, sorry. Do you think I should share my screen? I have a few slides to share.
Yes.
But before that, what an impassioned delivery from Bozena. It's a very hard act for me now. And if I was nervous before, I am sweating now. And what a wonderful way of bringing uncertainty to, and especially to engineers who always love everything to be predictable. And for the IEEE Turkey section, it reminds me of a Rumi quote, if I may start with that, which says that if you embrace uncertainty, it becomes an adventure. And if you reject uncertainty, it leads to fear. So with that, I'm a great Rumi fan, and I wish I was in Istanbul as well. I would have gone to the Mevlevi, but here we go. I will try to, as I said.
I think you're, yes.
Okay. So I have an engineering background, of course, as it was said in the introduction, but lately I've started to work in the humanitarian field the last 4 or 5 years. And I'm often asked as an engineer, what am I doing in the humanitarian field? And it made me wonder as well. I thought about it for a long time. And then I realized that it's nothing special I'm doing here. All engineers are humanitarian workers first. Everything that gets done in the humanitarian space or outside of it for human progress, it's engineers who make it happen. Even in the current scenario for COVID, I mean, what would have happened if the lights had gone out, so to speak? We are the key workers that no one talks about. The hospitals wouldn't run if the engineers weren't there. So with that, I would start my presentation to say engineers and electrical engineers especially are at the heart and crux of human progress and human development. And with that comes a huge responsibility that we have. One of the responsibilities that I would like to talk about is creating an equitable world. And if one thing that came out of the COVID crisis, which I can say could be a turning point, could lead to something positive and good out there, is the fact that we have to learn to live together, that we have to reach out to each other, share resources, share knowledge, create an environment where we can perhaps fight and sustain our lifestyles in a manner that might change significantly or has already changed. I really don't know where the endpoint of COVID is going to be, if there's going to be one. Well, what I could say that it will be something that we have to really live with for a very long time. And I'm not talking only the economic issues and hardships perhaps that we're going to encounter. Moving on, engineering the future. What do we think that the future is going to be? I mean, with or without COVID, that's always a great question. And there's as many answers as you could imagine, and you will still not run out of them. I went to the IEEE website to see how we're looking at the future. And we're not talking about the COVID, post-COVID future. I just wanted to see what IEEE had to offer in terms of where the future should be. And there's a host of things that I found there. So cities are one of the biggest growing, especially the last 50 years, I think, all across the world. Every country has seen the growth of cities. The significance of cities. Cities as the engines and drivers of economy and societies. Cities as the magnet for people to come and bring their dreams with them, make their dreams happen. But what are the cities and what is the future of cities? It looks pretty dire, if you ask me, on one hand. And then on the other hand, it's one of the most exciting things that's happening out there. So I'm not going to go into too much of the detail of what smart cities mean to all of us. I think we all know that term. It's a pretty, almost a cliche now. But IEEE, as in many things, had taken a lead on smart cities as well, on creating the technology, on creating the knowledge base, on sharing the educational content that came out of the universities and was being dispersed by this huge and very respectable organization that I have the privilege to be part of, just as all of you do. So engineering the future, where do we want the future to go? That's the question that I think we need to address. And from an engineering perspective, from a purely technical perspective, we can talk about healthcare and transport and connectivity and improved smart grids and education and digital education, waste, environment, water, security. All of these things that we hear about has one thing in common, and that is technology. And we, as the keepers of technology, have a huge responsibility on us. And as engineers, I think we have to step up. It's time that we stepped up. We have left it. It's a huge gap that we've left. We hand over the technology and the outcomes of it to people in government and power, and they do normally a pretty bad job of it. COVID has shown us that technology has to be at the forefront, but technology has to be a well thought out technology, not just technology for the sake of it, not just technology that really means and delivers to a very small group of people. And that group of people is not confined to one place in the world. In every country, in every city across the world, there'll always be a smaller group of people who have the greater benefits of technology. And that, I think, is one of the things that should come out for the future of engineering, that the technology that has worked for a small minority of people should now be broad-based to take it to other people on the planet who deserve it just as much as we do, or just as much as some of the people who have that privilege do. So I would go one step further and, okay, we can talk about what are the key technological drivers at the moment. And some of them that come up, we all talk about machine learning, data analytics, AI. This is where the future is going of technology. Again, all driven by engineers. Mainly driven by engineers, I should say. But what are we doing with that technology? Where is it going? What is the grand plan? What is the greater future that we're looking at? Not just trying to publish a paper, not just writing a paper, not just creating one technology gizmo after another. Yes, that's exciting. It always is when you apply technology and create something from technology or from science. So I often say that science is the raw form, and technology is what you do with science to make science work for us. But now there's a third layer. We need to see where that technology takes us. That direction is very important. That future that we paint today as engineers is very important, not just for us, but for the rest of humanity. So on the one hand, we have to remain very grounded and rooted to the ground to say, okay, what do? We deliver core services. What's a core service? A smart grid is a core service. A grid is a core service. A transport is a core service. Hospital, healthcare. Everything relies on where the engineers come in and build the equipment and the infrastructure, the framework of operation for them. Yet, we do not have the kind of say that we should have in where that technology should go and how it works. So that's one of the things that I would leave with you to say, think about this. Do not see yourself as just the purveyors of technology. Do not see yourself as just people who are just rooted into a technology environment and just running on a treadmill like a hamster. We should also be in control. We should also have the ethics to follow. AI, I mentioned it, specifically I mentioned that if we're not careful, if we don't build and sustain an ethical aspect, to not just at the core of education. And I say that with a lot of humility because we have two very great academicians here. I pale in their glory, but I have to say this, that education and technical education for engineers needs an ethical concept, needs to be defined with ethics and a philosophical concept as well of where we are going as humans. Because we are taking charge of a lot of things that have a direct and long-term influence on where the future of humans, but not just humans, future of this planet is. So therefore, my next slide shows about what we've been able to do. I mean, these are not mean achievements. This is one of the best application of human ingenuity that you could see. We humans have achieved remarkable things. We humans have gone and done things with science and technology and turned it into so many things. I mean, we can talk about megacities, we can talk about communication, transport, all of those things. Water, conservation, and not least healthcare. We have been center stage at all of those. So our achievements are many. We have every right to feel very proud of what we are, where we are today, and what we've done for the rest of the planet. I go back to my old quote, we are all humanitarian workers as engineers. We do the work for humanity, and therefore, we are the humanitarian workers of today, yesterday, and tomorrow. But is that enough? Is what we are doing? Is that okay for us to go? Let me go back to my slide of creating the most advanced technical environments that we can and putting them together. It's remarkable, and I repeat myself when I say that it is remarkable that we've achieved that, but I would argue that that's not enough. What is enough, perhaps what would be good, is to take the whole thing and apply it for the betterment of humanity. And where does that take us? I came up with this, I would call it self-actualization. It's like Maslow's inverted pyramid, which says that we have to have a few basics. As engineers, we're good with creating the first base, the foundation. Not just talk, not just theory, not just articulation and mysticism, but grounded technologies that work. What are they? Energy is being the basic. I call it the basic enabler. Where you have energy, you can do everything. If you don't have energy, if you don't have good access to affordable and reliable energy that is for people across the board in a society, then that kind of differential is not good. And it creates all sorts of issues, be it political, be it social, be it just human scale. Education is one of those things that takes people out of where they are and shows them the capability that they have. But education has to be quality education. An education that promotes critical thinking, an education that opens the mind, an education that tells people that they can dream, they can imagine, and they can make it happen. That, to me, is not just education, but it's also a definition of being free and freedom. And of course, well-being and physical and emotional well-being is at the heart of it. As humans, we need to be able to have access to good quality healthcare and nutrition and food. I mean, this is like the basics. If we have advanced so much in technology, we should now look back to see where these things don't exist, not take them for granted, but try to create an equitable world, which is, we have a very resource-rich world. It's just about applying those resources in the right manner. So that to me is a plan to empowerment for humans. And now in this age of what we hopefully will see very soon, if not already are, is the post-COVID world. Post-COVID world should focus on these things, because COVID has shown us that we cannot really be safe and secure in isolation wherever we are on the planet. We have to consider the people who are out there, who until now we always thought that, okay, those are the other people, we don't really have to care about them. We are in a bubble, and our bubble works for us. And this is the bubble that we will live in, and this is the bubble that we've created for ourselves. We don't really care outside the bubble what's happening. That has changed. And that must change as well. So in a way, that's a positive that's coming out of COVID. I'm aware that I think I have another 2 or 3 minutes. So I would really go very quickly over the next couple of slides to say, what are the lessons from COVID that we can draw as technologists, as humans, as whoever we are? Because IEEE is not about electrical engineers. IEEE is open to everyone. And I know lots of non-electrical members who are very passionate about IEEE and have been members. And so therefore we reach out to them to create a more human-centric, not a technocentric world. We create blueprints for AI and machine learning that are based on ethics. Ethics that we define. We cannot, after 3 generations of AI, we will perhaps not have the control that we have today. So time is of essence. We have to go there, and we have to really address that right now. And I think I don't want to go into that, but there are enough examples in the news today about how AI has been biased and not really delivered in the manner that it should. So, yeah, we've been very good lately in the past 20 years of creating huge data sets, huge layers of data, mining that data, calling it intelligence, building tools. But the approach until now has been more to do with technology and less to do with where the future of humans, the future of the planet should be. And I think it's time that we took an objective view of that. And I'm not a believer that we should roll back technology and we should not have technology. Those are romanticized views that they don't really work, they cannot work. But what can work and what should work is to have the technology that really has been thought through to work for us as humans, not just for us, but for our coming generations. I think we owe it to the world that we're going to leave to our future generations. So I would just say, post-COVID lessons, what are we learning? That human capital is the real capital. So we should define capitalism in a different way now, which is called a social capital, which is collaborative, that reaches out. And IEEE is center stage in that. We have the knowledge, we have the membership, we have the reach across the planet, almost every country in the world. We just have to use that in a bigger, wider picture and create the world with innovation and governance and leadership, everything coming into it. And my last acronym was, and it really came to me that, what are the 3 things that we can have that really chime with us as humans, as engineers, as electrical engineers, as members of IEEE, as members of this world, the society, whatever you want to call it. It is the basic human integrity, to me, is sacrosanct. If you don't have, I often say that, being humane is one of the best things that human can be. It is perhaps the best human trait. Being intelligent, being powerful, being resourceful, being talented, all comes later. So integrity and ethics, empathy, for us, for the people across the world, for our planet. It's a very delicate little planet in this huge universe that we live in. And lastly, environment. We have to care not just for us and our own needs, but we have to look beyond our selfishness and look at the world that we've created and the world that we are going to leave one day. Thank you, everyone. I think I'm over my time.
Wow. Wonderful use of time. So you're an excellent speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So our last speaker is Professor S.K. Ramesh, or as they call it in Cyprus, Ramesh Hoca. he's going to mention about the engineering future with his talk. So, the floor is yours. Thank you. You are muted.
Welcome, sir.
Yeah,
Here we go.
now, yes.
Go back here. Yeah, thank you very much, Tanzarjan, Samai, Professor Urdad, and my distinguished panelists. What an inspiring set of presentations, both from Professor Duncan and somebody whom I've gotten to really learn and admire over the last few months. Fareed, thank you very much. You mentioned Rumi, Fareed, and it got me thinking. And as a fan of Rumi myself, one of his words is, if you're going to set out on a journey and you want to take advice, don't talk to somebody who's never left home, all right? Engineering the future in the post-COVID era. I was thinking about an image to share with you, and in the center of my screen, you see Professor Thomas Kailath. I think many of you know Professor Kailath from Stanford, one of the brilliant engineers of our time, systems engineers of our time. And he was recognized in 2014 with the National Medal for Science, Technology, and Innovation by President Obama. And I happened to be listening to his acceptance remarks, and he said something that actually President Obama picked up. And what he said is, engineers are intrinsically hopeful, intrinsically hopeful. And President Obama came back in his speech, and he said he loved the word intrinsically hopeful. We need to be intrinsically hopeful as we think about the future, because it's really not about the future of engineering. It is about engineering the future where we'll all play a part. So with that said, I want to thank my colleagues in the Turkey section for this opportunity to share my thoughts with you, and we'll see where we go from here. So the first thing I want to share with you, this is from the US National Academy of Engineering, and I think it sets the context. This was actually written in 2008 and called Changing the Conversation. Now remember, at the time they wrote it, in the US, they were talking about a lack of interest in STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. So they put together a high-powered team of people, scientists, engineers, public, etc., talking about what is the impact of science, what is the impact of technology, what is the impact of engineering. So this book, which is downloadable from nae.org, talks about changing the conversation. And yes, I have a method to my madness. The red and the black are the colors of my school. I teach at Cal State Northridge, and our mascot is a matador, and the red and the black are our colors. So I thought I'd play some games with the words, so I chose my colors appropriately. Innovation, engineering, research for real-world applications, constantly improving our lives. But read that last sentence. Few professions have such a direct and positive impact on people's everyday lives. We are counting on engineers and their imaginations to help us meet the needs of the 21st century, right? We could not have set this up better for this panel to say, why is it so important for us to engineer the future? We need to change the conversation, ladies and gentlemen, and we are going to be part of that envisioned future, all right? Professor Duncan talked about her experience here in Hotel California. I'm in Hotel California too, by the way. I live in Los Angeles in Simi Valley, except I'm socially distant from her and we're socially connected. Like her, I was in the classroom on the 12th of March, and we had students in our classroom lawns, connected, talking to one another, describing what experiences they had, going to labs, lectures, discussions, etc. And literally a week later, we went from that to this, okay? So we were tremendously socially connected, but now we were socially distant. And the words of Eddie Obeng come to mind. Eddie Obeng was a TEDx speaker, and he talks about VUCA, right? And I was thinking about Professor Duncan's remarks about uncertainty. Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. All of these coming at us with the pace that rapidly outstrips the pace of learning, okay? If higher education needed a disruption, this was it. If somebody needed to turn on a switch and say, ladies and gentlemen, why do we have to believe in scarcity where we have this wonderful, wonderful teacher like Professor Duncan, only limited to those 50 students in Kansas? Why can't she connect with the whole wide world? Why can't we have a futurist like Fareed engage, embrace technology with integrity, with ethics, with empathy? and ensure that this benefits a lot of people. Why not, right? So we go from scarcity to abundance. We go from constraints to opportunities. We go from secrecy to collaboration, and we go from licensing to open source. You see, engineering the future is all about embracing the challenge and embracing the opportunities. Okay, so where do we begin, right? You say, this is all good, Professor Ramesh. Where do we begin to engineer the future? Well, let's start. Lockdowns, right? The first thing that happened, working from home. And we said, this is great. You know, I don't have to jump in my car and fight the Los Angeles traffic to get to my classroom. And very quickly, we adapted to Zoom. Very quickly, our homes turned into studios, our classrooms turned into discussion forums, our students turned into supporting acts as they started to learn. At the same time, we had this whole army of doctors, scientists, community workers looking to test, trace, and control. If you're an electrical engineer, think AI, think 5G, think IoT, right? Think machine learning. All of these are being used, right? And huge economic impact. The airline industry got impacted almost immediately. Whole industry sectors, supply and demand, supply chain got disrupted. Here in LA, we have a number of companies that make polos and t-shirts and so on. Guess what they did? They pivoted and started making personal protection equipment. Students started doing hackathons, trying to figure out how they could use software to help people with disabilities, to help people with challenges. Entire businesses started to reinvent themselves. I'm not saying this would not have happened. I'm just saying that the pace of change rapidly outstripped the pace of learning. Here's a word that I use often, resilience. To me, resilience is at the core of innovation. And why is that? Because it's very easy to talk about innovation when you're not challenged. But now we're being forced to innovate through adversity, right? We're forced with this challenge. We've got to deal with healthcare, we've got to deal with education, with communication. There are so many challenges before us, and we have to demonstrate resilience. So the questions that come up is, how do we rebuild? Some of the people I speak to in my neighborhood on my evening walk tell me, how can we ever go back? And the first thing that comes to my mind is back is not the way forward, right? So I start thinking, let's accept where we are. Let's look at the world of the future. What do we rebuild, right? Then the other question is, we have an opportunity to rebuild and use an innovation-based economy as a driver for the future. Because the IEEE, being the largest professional technical organization, brings all these brilliant minds together to create innovation in the face of adversity. So the challenges, pollution, congestion, lack of access to clean water, housing, climate change, we're all experiences with fires and hurricanes, quality of life. And interestingly, with COVID-19, the air in Los Angeles suddenly became cleaner. The birds are chirping, you can see blue skies. You can hear from people in Beijing, you can hear from people in Bethesda, Maryland. Everybody's enjoying quality of life, provided you have that attitude that this is really an opportunity before us. Unemployment is always there. We had 5% unemployment in the United States. Automation was accelerating that pace. With COVID-19, a lot of professions really need to be thinking about how they're going to adapt. Some predictions that I saw from economists said there might be 40% unemployment. At the same time, I see 40% opportunity for the technologies of the future. So what are those technologies? Sustainable technologies. We are really, really going back to our roots, thinking about what is sustainable. Fareed talked about smart cities, clean energy, transportation, the digital technologies, access. How do we ensure access? In the United States, we've been talking a lot about inclusivity. We have plenty of diversity, but diversity by itself doesn't guarantee inclusion. We have to work very hard to bring people with different cultures, different socioeconomic conditions, languages to work together. These are all opportunities before us. So, as I look at the future, and I call it future-proofing the world, I really like the way Fareed ended, because he talked about values, and he gave me a new definition for IEEE. He talked about integrity, ethics, empathy, and environment. I say that the future really goes back to our core values. And I go even deeper. I talk about trust. And trust begins with openness. It begins with transparency. It begins with building community, the kind of communities that IEEE can create. Second, I say, we're all in here for a short time. We know that, right? But we act as if we're here forever. So let's take care of the world. COVID-19 has literally hit the pause button and say, let's leave a world that's sustainable for the future. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. If you go to the IEEE entrepreneurship community, there's surveyed the community, 17,000 members and non-members. Guess what the top goal was? Number 9 in the UN Sustainable Development Goal. Innovation, industry, infrastructure. but to live in a sustainable way. This is something we've been earning for. COVID-19 has given us the opportunity to go there. Next, be grateful, be thankful. Professor Duncan talked about her students, how much they wanted to meet her. My students are the same way, right? And I started communicating with them. I started listening to them. I started having weekly Zoom meetings. And I said, look, talk to me anytime you walk. You have my WhatsApp number, use Slack. I've learned so many things from my students these past 4 months that I would have never learned if COVID-19 had not happened, right? The way to collaborate, the way to communicate, the way to build community. We've already talked about ethics. We've got a new definition for IEEE. As a matter of fact, IEEE just approved a code of ethics, brand new code of ethics led by Andrea Goldsmith in June of 2020. I see this as a great way forward. We look at abilities, we look at fairness, we look at quality of life, no matter where you are in the world, so you can make a difference. Most importantly, and this is my favorite, ladies and gentlemen, I think you know who she is, Maya Angelou, right? And Maya Angelou's, one of her favorite quotes is, lift up your hearts. Each new hour holds new chances for new beginnings, engineering the future. Each new hour holds new chances for new beginnings. Okay, so why are we so interested in artificial intelligence? Why are we so interested in the Internet of Things and smart grid? We're not just pulling these out of our hat. We've been working on standards, publications, conferences forever, right? But we have a continuous education ad hoc. They went and surveyed our membership, our industry members, and this is the 3 topics that came up. They're actually creating learning objects. So objects that interact with the learner as we speak. I've had a lot of questions on chat. I've been monitoring the chat. I've learned to do that as a professor. And people are asking, how are we going to teach? How are we going to learn labs? All of this goes back to that. So you need to be able to have anytime, anywhere access to education. You need to be able to learn at your own pace, asynchronously, be able to deliver that to industry, whatever it is you're trying to do. IEEE is on the way to providing that. Here are some resources, because I don't want to leave you with the fact that, well, here's challenges, here's these beautiful opportunities. What is IEEE doing about it? If you haven't already checked, go to the IEEE site, just type in COVID-19 resources. And this will come up, right? It'll say, these are your resources. Then my eye naturally got down to free resources because, I want to save money. Everybody's balancing their checkbook. I clicked on free resources. And lo and behold, you get the site, right? It talks about different articles, free resources, wide variety of offerings at no cost to support you through the pandemic. Click on that. It takes you to this site and it says, I am a practicing engineer, I'm an educator, I'm a parent, I'm a researcher, a student. If you're me, I click on all of the above, right? I just clicked on all of the above. That took me to continuing education, ebooks and audiobooks. Now I'm intrigued, right? Because I'm at home. I don't have to drive anywhere. I don't have to think about, it's going to take me 2 hours to go to the next meeting. I click on continuing education and it takes me to the IEEE Learning Network. To those of you in the chat that asked about how are we going to teach and how are we going to learn, last week we had a whole forum on effective remote instruction. This is on the IEEE Learning Network. It's on IEEE TV. It's on demand. You can download it and listen to it. Please do, because people have lots of ideas on how they're doing this. The ILN is something I started as vice president, a truly collaborative effort that brought all the technical societies, all the OUs together to deliver education in an affordable way to students, practitioners, and educators. Right now, if you're a student, you could go and access these courses for a relatively inexpensive fee, but I understand the world is a very different place, very diverse, and $10 is a lot of money for a lot of you around the world. Earlier today in a town hall, there was a suggestion made, why can't we as a reward provide certificates to students and others to be able to access these courses? Why not? You need to be able to do those things. Then I look at ebooks, right? I'm still old-fashioned. I still have books on my shelf. I read them. And the IEEE actually allows you to access these ebooks. You can actually go in there and click on classics and look at the number on my screen, 373 books that you can download to your favorite device and sit under a tree with the birds chirping, with the water flowing beside you, and learn about control systems, communications, AI, 5G, IoT, doesn't matter, but you do that in consonance with nature, okay? Last but not the least, we made available all of our COVID-19 resources. So if you want to go to the IEL, if you want to go to IEEE Explore, any research that we've done on COVID-19 is freely available to you. Lots and lots of resources for us to take advantage. 2 humanitarian programs that I have to mention, especially given our speaker before me, IEEE Smart Village, because we think about reading, writing, and arithmetic as being fundamental. in the world of today, electricity, I think, is more fundamental, because with power, you have access to the internet. With access to the internet, you have access to education. With education, you have entrepreneurship. With entrepreneurship, you build telemedicine facilities, you build telework. All these things can happen as a result of IEEE Smart Village. Wonderful program, making a whole difference around the world. IEEE, again, as a trusted source of information, is behind it. EPICS and IEEE, this is a program that I'm very passionate about. It talks about access and abilities. It talks about human condition, educational resources, outreach, energy and environment. But what's different about EPICS and IEEE is it builds that foundation of the future. It brings pre-university students together with the university students, working with a nonprofit organization sustainably to deliver projects. This particular project right here is a child with CP, cerebral palsy, who was in Wichita, Kansas, by the way, Bazana. This is the Ada Kappa Nu chapter at Wichita, Kansas, that worked with this child to re-equip this toy car so she can comfortably, safely ride the car without a fear of falling. These are projects that may be very simple, but at the end of the day, it makes a difference to the child so she can participate. So putting it all together, I have a few thoughts here. I don't want to run out of time. I want to think about what are the skill sets necessary for the jobs of the future. We really need to be thinking about this. I think communication is important. Working collaboratively is important. Leadership is important. Interdisciplinary research, and being very diverse and inclusive. Systems thinking. We need to be cross-cultural, and we need to be sustainable. Our resources are limited, and we need to preserve what we have for the future, addressing the global challenges. And the new realities of global innovation. We're not just going to jump on a plane and go to Istanbul and meet all of you in Turkey. Not anytime soon. I'd love to do that. I'd love to be there in person. But with the increasing distance between the technology innovators and the markets, how do we deliver products and processes with impact where our members and non-members, and indeed the rest of humanity lives? And engineers who can compete and collaborate globally, and none of this would be possible without inclusion, diversity, and equity, IDE, because this is very important for society. IEEE is a big part of the puzzle, but inclusion is vital. Okay. We've already given you a few examples. IEEE Learning Network. You look at that hub and spoke model there. You have lots of OUs, technical activities, MGA, IEEE USA, lots and lots of acronyms. And those of you who are volunteer leaders, you live and breathe in this space. But in order for this flywheel to change, in order for all of this to happen, I think there is one word that is critical. And that word, ladies and gentlemen, is collaboration. A few years ago, when I was in the board of directors, I was with a group of young professionals. And I know all of you are going to say, yeah, you were in Hawaii, Ramesh. Yes, we were. But we had a 15-minute break during our session. And we were outside enjoying a coffee break before we went back to talk about the future of IEEE. And these young professionals did something that was remarkable. One person said pyramid. And the next thing you know, they literally formed a human pyramid right before my eyes. I saw collaboration, I saw communication, I saw cooperation. Nobody was there to tell them what to do. MGA was not there to tell them to report this. Technical activities was not telling them to publish this, but they did it spontaneously, right? That, to me, is the beauty of IEEE. That is how we do collaboration. Now, I think about my colleague from IEEE Educational Activities, my predecessor, Professor Saurabh Sinha from University of Johannesburg. And he would always start a meeting with his African proverb, right? And it goes something like this. It says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to engineer the future together. This is a brilliant, bright future, full of opportunities. Yes, there will be challenges. Without a challenge, there's no opportunity. So I'm going to ask you rhetorically, and I know the answer to this question, but I have to ask you, do you want to make a difference in the world? Do you want to make a difference in the world? And the answer, I believe, is unequivocally, unabashedly, yes. Surround yourself with young people like this from the Tri Engineering Summer Institute. Believe in the future, believe in the opportunities before us, and show, like I do, the values that I care about, to be inclusive, to be collaborative, to be accountable, to be resilient, to be ethical. Because I truly believe that is the future. And we can't just do this slowly, because urgency is the need of the hour. There is no room for complacency. So I almost want to flip those words and say, I raise as an inclusive, resilient, accountable, collaborative, and ethical. And I have to close where I began with Maya Angelou, which is, we may encounter many defeats, we will. But as entrepreneurs say, we must never be defeated. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a real pleasure talking to you today, and I look forward to the questions and the discussion with the panel. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Actually, I would like to ask Simay, can you unmute everyone? Okay.
I can unmute everyone. We'll need to fix later. Yeah, shall I unmute?
Now I would like to everyone to give a huge applause to all three speakers. So let's create some echoes.
Okay, I'll ask everyone to unmute. Probably everybody's on mute right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
are you?
We can do it.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
That is what is missing in the Zoom meetings, I believe. Like when we go to a conference or a speech, at least we will get 1 or 2 seconds of applause. In Zoom, we don't have it. And
Tuncer, can we take a group picture?
I think Simay can do it.
We can.
Nice.
The thing is now I request everyone to unmute themselves. So they're just slightly unmuting. So what we can do, like I'll make sure many people are unmuted, and if you're willing to turn on your camera, we can give you a couple of minutes, and then you turn on your camera and unmute yourself. We can repeat this applause because we'll hear more people's sound at this moment, because many more people are unmuted right now, slightly going, and I'm seeing some of you already turn on your camera. That you have a couple of minutes, seconds. Take your time if you want to. No pressure, but we'll take a good picture.
I cannot start my video. It says the host has stopped it. My name is Bülent Bilir.
I apologize. Sometimes I do these kind of things, but yes, I apologize, and I ask you to start.
Simay, I've often noted that technologists always have the biggest technology challenges.
There he is.
Okay. If anyone has the same problem, just let me know. I'll turn on. I'll just change the settings. I sometimes do just like spontaneously during the presentations.
I thought I was banned.
Oh, never, please. I apologize for that. It's some kind of operational.
I would
just
say
kidding.
the engineering group as soon as you can.
Just kidding.
Sure. Now, just couple of more seconds. If you want to turn on your camera before the group picture, that's the last call. And here we have 2 pages. So I'll take two different shots that please give me some seconds. The first one is coming. Okay. Here, I'll take 4. So the second one's coming. Just to be safe. And the 4th one is coming.
It is a photo, folks. You can speak.
So one last one is coming.
Oh dear.
Frozen in your avatar.
Thank you very much. So they're all set. And if you want to, Tuncerhocam, if you want to.
Yeah, one last time. Thank you very
much.
much for all our speakers for the wonderful presentations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I would like to ask again everyone to mute it, and then I took my notes during the presentations. Maybe new questions will come as well. We will start with a specific question, and then we will go broad. So this is to Professor Patrick-Duncan. What do you think about peer review for exams and projects? So what do you think about if the students actually review their friends' exams and so on? So that's the first question that we get. And
Should I answer now?
yes, please.
So this is excellent question, and is just close to my heart, because 5 C's drive my research, teaching, and everything what I do. And they were mentioned, some of those C's, is curiosity, creativity, connections, communication, and collaboration. And I teach, students love collaboration. So that question, I have not done yet peer review exams, but I've done beautifully and it works beautifully on homework and projects. So this semester, I'm going to do peer exam, review exams. And I have that kind of luxury at my university that I can do whatever I want to in teaching. So I change almost every semester. I introduce something based on learning. And I really truly believe, because I teach not just only calculus, probability, statistics, control, but I teach how to profess. And so that ethics, honest work, students like make sign contract with me. So this must be part of each of them and all of us. So we can do well if we keep, you know, ethical profession is absolutely important for the future. So the answer is yes. I am very big fan, although I have many colleagues who oppose, but again, it has to be very thoughtfully done. And again, it has to be done in the system that you know. And by the time when it's exam, I already know my students. I already know so much about them. The first extra credit assignment for students is share your short bio with me. Not curriculum, not CV, not nothing, but bio, thoughtfully written bio. So, and I always return to that bio during this entire semester. So they are part. In other words, students contribute to, this is integration. And you can read my papers. I wrote several integrating research and teaching about that philosophy of my stochastic adaptive control in teaching. And this is just, thank you for that question. It's a terrific question. I am a big advocate for that, involving students and peer. And, you know, I am proud of having so-called peer mentoring program in a classroom. So some students are excellent in computation, some students are excellent in theoretical aspects, some students have different strengths, built on strength, and they offer to help others who are, let us say, don't have those skills. And I offer only recognition for that part. Is in that program, mentoring program in the classroom, is that I write letter of recommendation at the end for absolutely any kind of job in mentoring and tutoring. So peer tutoring is just my passion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the question was actually from Onur Demir, so we thank him as well. And we received multiple questions from Sumit Kumar Gupta, and I would like to actually divide them into several parts. The question is for all of you. The first part is, that's what we discussed. What is the future of engineering? Will engineers have jobs in a post-COVID world, or will they need to equip themselves with new skills first? So who would you like to answer?
Well, I can jump in just briefly. But let me just say that most definitely there'll be jobs, but if you're looking for the jobs of the past, the first thing you need to do is to accept that the world has changed, right? I mean, that's a given. And let's start preparing for the jobs of the future. And I alluded to that in my remarks. I truly believe that sustainability is going to become a big theme, right? At least for the near future, I don't see global transportation taking off on the same scale that it did. And this then puts the onus back on what do we do sustainably, locally? Of course, IEEE is a global organization with a mission advancing technology for humanity. What local impact can we bring to bear in our communities? So going back to basic services, electricity, access, right? It doesn't matter if you have the fastest laptop, you need to have access to the internet. So that's important. And then provided you have that, there's lots of initiatives going on with blockchain and AI and machine learning in the area of telemedicine. So I believe that will also become really important. the whole business of education, Dr. Gupta, since you're talking about education, I, for one, believe, even though I'm an academic, I believe it's time we got disrupted, okay? Who said that we can only have 50 students in our classroom? We have the whole world as our classroom. Let's learn from one another. I can't tell you how much I've learned from my students. So I see tremendous opportunity for new jobs that have not yet been invented.
Thank you very much. I will go back to the education questions, but maybe there is another question that is really important for me. It is from Yiğit Doğancı. What do you think about the ethical consequences of the AI? So maybe Mr. Khan, would you like to answer this one? So AI and ethics, what will be the consequences?
Certainly, it's a huge topic. I'll try to do justice in a short possible time with my limited knowledge of what AI is, and of course ethics as well. But the future is huge. I think AI is going to be at center stage in a lot of things that we don't even know will exist in the future, because AI shall be what engineers have been doing now. And going back to the previous question, engineers create solutions. As long as we continue to create solutions, we won't need jobs. We will have it. We will have careers. So as long as we are innovative and we are at the cutting edge of innovation, we will be relevant, whether you call it a job or a career or something else, entrepreneurship. And it goes to the heart of what AI brings to the table. There will be a lot of things that AI will take over, not just from engineers, but from lawyers, stockbrokers, doctors, physicians. I was reading a book by two MIT scientists, and they say that already AI is about 30% better in predicting what physicians' diagnoses than doctors in Johns Hopkins Hospital, one of the premier institutes in the world. But of course, I wouldn't like an AI to tell me that I've got a cancer or COVID. I'm still looking for that human touch. How long will that last? So therefore, it's very important that if we put the right seed in how we write AI and how we program it from the beginning. Another aspect that makes it far more urgent is the marriage of AI and machine learning. And I was listening to a podcast from Google Futures, and they were saying that now AI is creating optimizing architecture for machine learning, which will then be optimized to create better AI. So, 4 generations after that, the machines are going to create AI, and AI is going to create those machines. We have to be in a place where we take it. And if it goes right, then it is the best thing that has ever happened to humanity. There's no doubt about it. The industrial revolutions, the digital revolutions will pale into insignificance 50 to 100 years from now with AI. But ethics has to be center stage, yes. So I totally agree with Mr. Doğancı.
Mr. Yiğit.
If I can just jump in briefly.
Yeah.
To add to what Fareed just said, I absolutely agree. And in fact, Professor Ali Hassami, who's with the IEEE United Kingdom, he and his group in IEEE standards have just come out with a set of standards that they've made public that you can go and review on accountability and privacy, right? So this is something that one can look at. And then put in a plug, tomorrow, some of us are going to be on a panel talking about the role of ethics. And the Standards Association in IEEE has been working very hard at this, and it's critically important. I just urge you to look at the open source effort on ethically aligned design, EAD. So take a good look at that. It's available, it's open source. Thank you.
I will add this about marriage. So that kind of like, for example, using my example, I joke that I married Tyrone Duncan because I needed control. By the way, such a coincidence, Ramesh, you spoke about Kailav, Professor Kailav from Stanford. It happened that Tyrone Duncan is his former PhD student from Stanford.
It is a small world.
So I have that excellent partner, somebody on the first grand road that marriage made in heaven. So I use that example because I really strongly believe in those what my colleagues already said, teamwork. Those are skills, research involvement, research experience at early level. Undergraduate is already late, high school, whatever. There are so many opportunities. NSF in the United States has so many opportunities for high school students to be supported and involved in research. So research experience, communication, it was already stated so strongly. And collaboration, because it's faster. With my husband, I would probably still be working on some problems back in Poland, but we wrote over 100, probably 50 papers together, and we speak with all other people. So I am a big believer for collaboration. So because of new ideas and because they bring new tools and so on. And speed, you can solve problems. So those skills are in my judgment. And for example, I will never accept now student as my student without computational skills. So computational skills is absolutely necessary requirement to join my group. So,
Roshana,
yeah.
Talking of uncertainty, the landscapers are outside my door with the lawnmowers, and you talk about uncertainty. But it's very reassuring for me to hear you and know who is really in control. So thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, those are, and I personally, my students, I had like over 60, 70 graduate students from my program under my supervision. None of them waited even 72 hours for getting offer. So they've been all of them work except one. All of them work for industry, but different types, telecommunication, finance, and they are partners, they are owners of successful companies and so on. And they are my best advisors. If I have to make the decision, lifetime decision to buy a property or not, to take mortgage or not, I contact my former student. And this is just that lovely feedback from students. Those skills are absolutely broadly educated, being open-minded, being creative, listen to others, respect others. Those are skills that will take you ahead.
There is one thing. Okay. Thank you again. I would like to actually go back to the education part of the talk. So the questions from Dr. Gupta again. So what are the major steps that colleges should take to keep the education for the students? How do you think that the core engineering should be taught online? And on the other hand, what will be the digital education to the students from the rural areas if they don't have any internet connection?
Who do you want to go first?
Please.
If you hear the lawnmower behind me, I apologize because I can't do anything about those guys, right? So that's uncertainty. I'll try to speak. I'll put on my lecture voice for the whole world. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important for us to be looking at what the needs of our students are, right? And so over the last 8 weeks, I've been working on virtual summer research projects with the students in our cohort. And many of them have insecurities related to housing, related to finances, related to transportation, related to jobs. So when I think about education, let's not just think about the content that we're going to deliver to them, but let's also think about holistically how we are supporting them. That's very important. And I think universities need to be thinking about that very, very deeply. A lot of students, again, reported saying that they felt isolated. They really wanted to be together, to discuss, to learn, like I showed you in that initial slide, where now they're socially distant. Even though they have all these social connection tools, they miss that interaction. So I'm not sure how to answer that. More to the question of labs and lectures, we are doing, I mean, if you're a mechanical engineer and you're building a Formula car, I don't see any way of doing that remotely. You have to show up in the lab, right? You're dealing with carbon fiber materials, you're dealing with CNC machines. There's no way to do that virtually. You have to be there to work. But maybe you don't get 50 students in the lab, you get 3 or 4 students, have some protocols, have some sanitation procedures to make sure that all of those are followed as we go through. Electrical computer engineering, for the most part, from what I've seen, our labs are being adapted to learn. What is more important is the human side of it, as Bozana, as Farida pointed out. We really need to pay attention to the human side of it, because we can't just assume that the interactions are taking place the same way they did in the world before. So those are some of the ideas. Last week, we had that seminar by Education Society and IEEE Educational Activities. It's available on demand. Please check it out on remote learning and remote teaching. Lots of great ideas for implementation.
Thank you. So, any other answer? We cannot hear you. Farid, you are muted.
So, okay, right. A couple of things I would like to say. One that I think both Rosanna and Professor Ramesh have talked about is creating a collaborative environment. And it is much easier today than it was maybe 50 years back. When I was growing on a campus, my parents were faculty as well. So I spent the first half of my life on campus and decided not to spend the other half on campus. But having said that, I would say that one of the, I think you mentioned in my introduction about the National Geographic documentary, and it was pretty challenging because we trekked about 4 days on the mountain where the oxygen levels were 60% lower to go on the other side of Tibet in a place called Ladakh in India and reach this 12th century monastery in a small village. And by the time we came down, we had solar enabled the village, the monastery, put computers into the village school, connected those computers by satellite phone to the internet. Children who hadn't seen a light bulb in their life, adults who hadn't seen a light bulb in their life, were in 10 minutes working the mouse and playing cartoon games and catching the apples and putting them in a basket and so on. So there has to be ways for us to take this. Another example I'll use, we developed an Arduino-based a very small server, the size of perhaps an iPad. And you could get about 500,000 pages, including Wikipedia and Khan Academy and so on, for remote regions, and put it there as a learning tool. And perhaps even if it's not completely unconnected, you could once a month take it to a place where you have digital. So, there are solutions. Everything is not available there, but we have to apply our ingenuity and creativity, as Rosanna said. Those C's and those I's matter. We have to deliver this. It's not easy. We can't sit and just say it has to be done in the way it's always been done. If we're not able to do that, then it can't be done. I'm not a believer in that. There's always a way, is how I would say that. We have to apply ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So there was one question about what if we don't have enough technology, what would happen in COVID-19? I would like to answer this question. We knew what would happen because we had the Spanish flu 100 years ago, millions perished. So we are actually living a really good time that, yes, we lost many people during this pandemic, but we knew that if we didn't have the right technology, much more would be perished. Our last question is actually from IEEE Turkey Chair Fatih Urda. And the question is, what does IEEE offer for high school students? So what can we offer to high school students?
So,
yes, please.
Yeah, I'll just give you a brief answer because of educational activities. 2 words, try engineering, try engineering. So if you go to tryengineering.org, that is our central repository where we have resources for students, for parents, for counselors, and educators. So there's lesson plans, there's lots of activities. The Try Engineering portal is being revamped right now in multiple languages. So that's actually going to be made available in January of 2021, but you can go there today and look at it. two other resources for high school students. We are running a program called Try Engineering Summer Institute, right? And this is something that was a hands-on 2-week institute. This year, because of COVID-19, we could not engage in that, but this is something that we want to do globally going forward. And the last piece is Try Engineering Together, which is an e-mentoring program for children in grades 3 through 5. So those are 3 resources that I wanted to share with you. My colleagues may have others.
But I also wanted to say that individually in technical societies, it depends what your interest is. It depends, you have to be aware what interests you. Then you can search, you can go a little bit and do some homework. I'm talking to high school students or parents or teachers. And for example, for the last 20 years, I developed sustainable model for control is everywhere. And this is a fascinating workshop that we carry on for high school all around the world, and at every conference and technical conference, and recently in Berlin that IFAC Congress had spectacular workshop for girls in coding. So they know the title is Girls in Control. And that was like 13 countries attended, students from. So this is opportunity online doing that kind of workshop. So there are many opportunities. The point is, like, for example, I observe here my daughter, students found her online and they link and they say, can I do research with you? And she got, for each of them, she got $8,000 for summer research from National Science Foundation as implementation supplement for her grant. So there are so many opportunities. That's why I say, and I think that life and future is bright, looks bright, but you need to be creative, you need to be hardworking, you need to do research. You cannot just wait that somebody will give you all this. You have to be involved, and then you have incredible opportunities and challenges, and just simply a lot of information. This is the challenge, how you can deal with that too much information, and not everything is the highest quality research papers online. So you have to be really aware about standards and keep standards and go for standards. This is my always advice to students. So, and be honest in and cite all this, all kinds of. So I think that there are so many opportunities for high school students. Thank you.
Thank you. So
I would very quickly add just
yes,
one point that, well, because it's asked that what does IEEE offer for high school students? And because I'm working mainly in the humanitarian space, we have 3 agencies in IEEE. One is called the Special Interest Group for Humanitarian Technology. I'm sure you're aware of that. Humanitarian Action Committee and Smart Village. They all have very strong educational components for not just high school students, but for primary, secondary, and high school students, bringing technology to them as IEEE members and bringing education to them via technology as IEEE members. So it's a modest effort, but it's there. Help us grow that, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I also would like to mention, actually, as IEEE Turkey section, we had a project fair that the university students work with the high school students, and in our last one, actually, 40 projects from 25 different cities they paired, and then at the end of the time, they came together and they showed their projects to each other, and there was these really important activity for the high school students to learn actually from the other high school students of what they do regarding the engineering. Okay, one last question came. So will engineers be trained in universities in the years after COVID-19, or will it catch up with the core certificate programs of organizations such as IEEE any projections in this issue? So a certificate from a company, would it be more valuable than a university degree? What do you think?
Well, not in my lifetime. I think professors and teachers will be central to learning and education, and that's what I would say. But you know, there's a lot that's going to happen in the future. We can't say.
So, Professor Beckers, let me say that the modalities are changing, right? I mean, I sit on the board of ABET, the Accreditation Board for Engineering Technology. And in a given year, ABET accredits reviews about 1,000 programs. This year, all the visits are going to be done virtually, okay? So no team is going to set foot on any campus. Evaluators are going to get together wherever they are in the world. Teams are going to be formed virtually. They're going to be. So my point is, are we open to new models of learning and delivering education? I think yes, okay? I really think that it's going to happen. But despite all the technologies, despite all the advances, the human in the center of that equation is never ever going to go away, because there's something uniquely that makes me intrinsically hopeful for the future, because we can pull things together in ways that no machine can. A machine can outstrip us in terms of computing speed and spit out an answer to us, but to be able to see, to bring perspectives, to do empathy, to do integrity, and to do it ethically, with concerns with the environment, I don't see us going away anytime soon. But the modalities in which we deliver it should and will change.
I would like to add that, you know, digital intelligence will probably not replace emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is what a teaching environment creates, not just pure metrics and numbers. And as you said, so yes, Ramesh, thank you.
Professor Duncan?
I am, you know, educator in STEM, broadly in STEM. So I strongly believe that what I value the most, logical thinking, critical thinking, and those are foundation for everything. So you will build, I believe in good foundation. I really believe, like, you know, if you build the building, foundation is not good, you know, it will collapse sooner or later. So the same is, so I believe in foundation. I believe in good learning. So this way that solid education is important, and don't be, I say now to very young students, don't be afraid, just take a risk and just learn from each other, and learn from teachers and learn from parents, whatever, but learning and rigorous foundation of that calculus, but rigorous, that vector calculus, that geometry, that is, I think for every engineer is absolutely important. So don't try to sort of replace or escape from that learning of foundation. This is my personal, very personal, but I'm a believer. And this is how I teach, and this is how my students are so beautifully successful, better than me later on. So because of that,
So thank you very much all. Wonderful questions from the audience, wonderful answers from the presenters. I believe Professor Urda is here. So for the closing speech, I would like to give the floor to Professor Urda.
Thanks, Tunçer. Thanks to our speakers, panelists. This was a wonderful discussion. Basically, we're all trying to figure out how we're going to manage it in these new times, extreme times. Extreme times require extreme measures and extreme interaction. At least the extreme interaction part, we're doing it. So we're lucky to have you. And so we hope to see you in another webinar real soon. All of you, the audience and the speakers.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Simay, could you announce our next webinar for us?
Sure. We'll have on Monday, upcoming Monday,
which is Monday, 10th of August. And we'll shortly address another good topic, and we'll have also another panel. And in August, in upcoming weeks, we have several other webinars also coming up. And the next webinar is about engaging with global environmental issues through engineering solutions. So see you all on Monday.
Thank you.
Actually, can I just interject just for a second? Tunçer and Simay, can we take this opportunity to introduce some of our officers? Professor Ömer Usta is here.
Certainly.
He oversees the technical societies in Turkey. We have Bülent Bilir, Public Relations Coordinator. Nizamettin Aydın, if he's still here, he oversees conferences. Nizamettin Hocam, if you can turn on your video, maybe say hi if you're still here.
That's a great opportunity.
Maybe he's not by his computer.
Congratulations. It sounds like you are absolutely most successful. Thank you very much for
So,
Fatih,
thank you, Bojan.
I use my phone for camera.
Okay, you don't have video. Okay, Professor Usta and Professor Bilir, can you raise your hands? Just wave.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you, Nizamettin Hocam, for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks to all of you for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for that nice webinar. It was very interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being, and thank you for being so late attending that.
Yes, very late, yes.
And it's absolutely amazing, the most impressive work that you are doing. And I also speak as a past chair of women, IEEE Women in Engineering. So the Turkey section and Simay, they do amazing things. So thank you so much for everything which you do for IEEE. IEEE is part of me. So, you know, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Tunçer Hocam.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much
all
for
of
the
you.
kind words.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Goodbye,
you.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.